Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit TRE.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is good. It is Tuesday, the 13th of February. This is Viewpoint, Talk Radio Europe's current affairs programme, with a panel of invited guests discussing the issues of the day with you for the next 2 hours. We've got a full studio today. Looking forward to today's show. If you want to get involved and get your viewpoint across, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
On today's show, got lots to get through today, including your reactions, please, to Joe Biden's bad week, Donald Trump's week, as he has the report on Joe Biden's ailing health, handed Trump the US election on a platter. We won't talk about Taylor Swift. That's Taylor Swift free zone. We'll be looking at Labour withdrawing support over the Israel remarks. Seen a candidate dropped as well. Is Labour shaking off that problem? Is that handing the Conservatives more votes? The continuing situation as Rafah is bombed in Gaza. Is Israel losing support from the international community on that one as well? We also, in the aftermath of two Guardia Civil agents being killed in Barbati, being run over by a boat. This has been all over on social media by a smuggler's boat with crowds cheering from the quayside. What's happening in that situation as well, plus anything else that you want to get your viewpoint across on this radio, this 100th anniversary of radio, which I'll come on to in Spain, which I'll come on to in a minute. But first, let's have a look at the headlines this morning. What's making your news in the UK and further afield as well. And as you might expect, that news that the candidate had been deselected is making quite a lot of headlines in the UK. This morning's papers open with the following: Labour Axis candidate and Corrie Ken's £5.5 million tax bill. Don't say we're not a broad church here. So looking at those front pages, somebody's come in on WhatsApps, by the way. Thank you. Any more Taylor Swift and I'm cutting my wrists. Yeah, I think we've had quite enough of that one. So Labour's decision to cut ties with its candidates in the Rochdale by-election dominates most of the front pages. Daily Mail has more details of the comments it's understood caused the party to withdraw its support for Azhar Ali. The paper says Mr. Ali told a Labour meeting shortly after the Hamas attacks on October 7th that Israel planned to get rid of Palestinians from Gaza and grab some of the land. Mail claims he also blamed negative coverage of a pro-Palestinian MP on people in the media from certain Jewish quarters. Mr. Ali has previously apologised. Daily Telegraph says Labour had been forced to disown Mr. Ali. It says the move means the party is effectively conceding Rochdale, where it has a majority of around 9,000. In its leader, the Times notes Keir Starmer had promised to tear out anti-Semitism in his party by the roots. But he said those roots cling as stubbornly and destructively to the foundation of the British left as Japanese knotweed. Okay. Meanwhile, the Sun's leader column accuses Keir of dithering on whether to ditch Mr. Ali. But the Eye's chief political correspondent, Richard Vaughan, writes that the Labour's leader's team might argue the decision was better late than never. Labour supporters in Rochdale could rally around Simon Danzuk, the party's disgraced former MP for the constituency. That's according to The Guardian. He's standing for the Reform Party. One source tells the paper the choice between him and George Galloway, who is running for the Workers' Party of Britain, was like the devil and the deep blue sea. Yes, George Galloway has been making noises in the background. In other news, writing the Times, Rishi Sunak says he understands people's anger that, as he puts it, the dream of home ownership feels too far away. But he urges voters to back the government's plans to build more houses, proposals Labour has branded laughable. Sunak had a very interesting appearance on GB News as well in the past 24 hours. Above the Prime Minister's piece, the Times political sketch writer, Tom Peck, describes how uncomfortable Mr Sunak looked while trying to defend his record during appearance on the aforementioned GB News. He said the Prime Minister looked like a man struggling with an unmentionable part of an ostrich. There's a thought. During an I'm a Celebrity Bush Tucker trial. Under the caption, a perk for a Burke, Daily Mirror claims the former Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, used a chauffeur-driven Jaguar during the COVID inquiry at the taxpayer's expense. A spokesman for Mr Hancock said it was reasonable for the government to cover his travel expenses. The Express reports... I'm just thinking 2 Jags. Sorry, excuse me. That just came back.
3 Jags.
3 Jags, thank you. The Express reports that officials are trying to stop the sale of a visitor's book from 10 Downing Street. The red leather book, which contains the signatures of world leaders and royalty, was used during the premiership of Margaret Thatcher and John Major. It's been put up for auction. Been put up for auction by a civil servant who found it in boxes of papers he rescued after a flood in Whitehall in 2017. And Britain could be about to face a cuppa crisis. That's according to the Daily Star. With the Houthi attacks on shipping in the Red Sea putting tea up the sprout. The Times carries a warning from retail analysts. You see, that's upset Alf so much he's actually choking. Times retail analysts who say tea drinkers could face shortages, price rises and shrinkflation in the months ahead. Let's go back to those pile of papers this morning. Daily Mail. Keir is forced to act Israel slur candidate. The Guardian. Labour cuts ties with Rochdale candidate over Israel comments. The Eye. Labour suspends candidates after Israel-Hamas conspiracy theory remarks. The Daily Mail leads with Braverman. Don't make people feel guilty for being white. Former Home Secretary says it's dangerous and wrong to call the countryside racist. That's Suella Braverman. She's, yes, interesting. She says that the countryside is not welcoming ethnic minorities because it's a predominantly white environment, and that's wrong, dangerous, and disempowering. She says her comments come after a group of wildlife charities said the countryside was racist and colonial, where people of colour were often framed as out of place. Financial Times. Lee reports that the founders and top executives of the largest US private equity groups have seen the value of their shares rise more than $4 billion over the past years as new assets have poured into their firms. The Times will build more homes in the right places, advised the Prime Minister. That's Rishi Sunak pledging to build hundreds of thousands of new homes. Meanwhile, The Sun debt revealed that Coronation Street actor Bill Roach owes the taxman over £500,000. The Express, dementia can be predicted 15 years before diagnosis. That's on their front, after scientists develop a blood test with 90% accuracy. The Mirror, Sarah killer stabbed in prison. Daily Mirror reports that Sarah Payne's killer, Roy Whitting, has been stabbed in a frenzied jail attack. The Metro leads with something different. The Metro says that a school head has not hired much needed classroom staff because of a PFI contract forces him to spend £30,000 a year cutting grass on the playing field. David Potter says almost 20% of his whole budget is spent on the deal which helped build the school, but ties to the same maintenance firm for decades as prices rise. So it's PFI, playing field idiocy. And finally, the Daily Star. The Red Sea cuppa crisis. Tea is up the sprout, and those, for better or worse, are your headlines this Thursday, the 13th of February.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And proving that I'm sharper than a marble, obviously. It's Tuesday, not Thursday. Thank you, Andres.
Yeah. Did you know in Spain,
Morning to you, buddy.
Tuesday, good morning to you, Giles, and good morning to everyone. Tuesday 13th is the day of bad luck under Spanish. It's not Friday 13th like in
the UK.
In Anglo-Saxon world, but in Spain it's Tuesday 13th. So they say don't get married and don't go on a boat.
Okay. Well,
Especially
don't get married on a boat.
Yeah, that's translating here because it rhymes in Spanish, you see.
They eat loads of pancakes.
Yes.
Shrove Tuesday.
Shrove Tuesday.
For the rest of the religious world, Shrove Tuesday, eat a pancake.
Are we in Lent now after that then? We are, aren't we?
We're in something, yeah.
We're in something.
I've never done all that.
We're in Viewpoint.
Stuff. The closest to the religious bit is eating a pancake.
And talking about the date, today is International Radio Day, and in Spain we celebrate the 100 years of radio.
100 years of radio?
Yeah, so this is very important.
So was it Radio Nacional Española?
Oh, you got me there. I wasn't around at the time.
You weren't around at the time.
But yeah, it's 100 years of radio, so we're celebrating, and where better to celebrate here at TRE.
Andreas wasn't at the birth of radio in Spain. I can't believe that.
Yes, absolutely. There you go. Well, it's probably we'll be being joined in the studio as well. So don't say I didn't warn you, by Jamie Hamilton Milan as well. He's going to be joining us, and he'll be sitting in the aforementioned middle seat, the middle mic.
When he's defrosted from the sea.
When he's defrosted from the sea. Right then.
And another thing for your listeners.
Thank you for being on your show.
This is radio.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that Alf brings his own cup from home to make his coffee.
No.
Oh, was it here?
Yes, that was a gift.
Oh, really? Well, he's chosen the Labour printed cup to have his coffee. So we know where we stand here.
We know
we're encouraging the radio station to become more politically aware.
And talking of which, as if by magic, mention his name and he shall arrive, clutching his
non-Labour.
I'm hoping that's water, by the way. It's a clear bottle. I think he's making their own, what's the stuff the Irish drink? They make it from the peach, There you go. It's having an effect already, Jamie. You're not able to speak. Morning to you.
So yes, Irish vodka.
Irish vodka.
How are you all, guys?
Yeah, we're good. Good to see you.
You too?
Right then, so we've got the...
How are you, Giles?
I'm very well, thanks, Jamie. Good to see you, mate. It's the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse here on TRE Talk Radio. Your voice in Spain. How are you, Jamie? You good?
Yeah. All good, just late, as always.
Well, it's all right. You're a busy man, so therefore... Let's look at... I've just shot through the headlines. Only the Irish can find a way of avoiding 40 days of Lent by celebrating St. Patrick's Day in March. There you go. Thank you very much for that one, Mark. Good to have you with us as well. Looking at the front pages of the papers today, the writings kick off with, but let's just, because the Labour Party deselection of the candidate's been making all the news. It's brought some old tropes up. It has led to accusations that the Labour Party still doesn't know how to. It's poutine, thank you, the Irish drink, and the Labour Party is being accused of not getting rid of its anti-Semitism. Keir Starmer made this speech last year about they were going out by the roots, and then this happens. It's interesting to see a Labour. As he was a Labour candidate in Rochdale, where obviously that would be a shoo-in for, you would think, for getting to being re-elected, to bring up this theory that's been doing the rounds on the internet. Poutine, thank you very much. Everybody's getting involved. Good to know that we've got some connoisseurs of spirits out there. But anyway, Does the Labour Party still have this problem? Alf, what are your thoughts on this? Because obviously you're the guy with the Labour mug today.
I'm the Labour mug today.
Yeah, the Labour mug today. Thank you.
Let's start from the beginning, because the Labour Party have some real difficulty with this.
Yeah.
Not because of what the guy has done, and in my opinion, if this guy lasts more than the investigation beyond the by-election before being thrown out of the Labour Party, I'll be very, very surprised. What he's done is just unacceptable, but it's the normal thing. This is a guy who's been around a long time. He's not some innocent little bystander. Is he leader of Yorkshire Council? Yeah. Certainly a well-known political person in Yorkshire. And he goes and does these things. Normally you'd say, that was a really daft mistake, being sucked in by some website that says whatever it said. I'm not even going to repeat it because it's not worth repeating. But it's worse than that, because this guy, it's a choice. It's a choice. This is someone who's standing for a really responsible position in British society. He's either stupid and I mean bonkers stupid, that he can read all this stuff or get fed this information and then just think he can just regurgitate it at will without being challenged, or so that makes him not a candidate because he's too stupid, or he actually believes what he said, which is even worse. What is he still doing there? So, from my background, I have real big questions, not about the National Labour Party, because their dilemma is they're in the middle of an election. I don't care, to be honest, if they don't win the Rochdale by-election. It's not going to make a blind bit of difference to what happens in the general election. It's all about impetus and momentum and carrying on. You know, you win the next by-election, you win the next by-election, you lead up to the general election on a bit of momentum. But this guy has done so much damage to the Labour Party, it's unbelievable, which is why I'm saying he should be out anyway for calling the party into disrepute and not agreeing with their values anyway. But the dilemma for the party is, and they didn't deselect him, he's not been deselected, because you can't deselect after you've gone into the election process. What's even worse, because of postal votes, the ballot papers will still be printed with the Labour Party logo on it, because they have to be printed early enough for postal voters, especially postal voters overseas. So they can't even remove the logo off the ballot paper, which will cause even more, because someone will get hold of one of them.
Put a candidate?
You can't put another candidate. It's all closed. It's finished. That's what the dilemma for the Labour Party was. You withdraw support from your Labour candidate. Oh, yeah, you're not Labour. We're not going to give you any money. You can't use our materials. You can't do it. We're not going to provide you with support on the ground. You know, you're not going to have an organiser. You're going to have nothing. You get on with it. Find yourself a new agent. Everything will be left to him. But Labour can't then replace him. So the dilemma, as I understand it at the time, is you've either got the ex-Labour MP, who stood down and has now joined whatever they call the Reform Party, which means he's effectively gone from the left to the right. Or you look at George Galloway and you go, oh, not again. We've had George Galloway 3-4 times. He's a thorn in the side of Labour. You know, he's Labour but not Labour, and there's never been Labour in my view. You know, he doesn't believe in the Labour Party views and positions no more than any of the other ones. So Labour had a difficulty. I think they've done the right thing. I think they were a bit late. I think they should have done it as soon as that all came out. They should have just said this. But like I say, the dilemma is you pull out of the election. There's no Labour Party candidate. You know, Labour lose some momentum towards the next election and allow the opposition the privilege of poking them in the eye.
Jamie,
can I crash in and say, what did the guy actually say?
It's the whole thing about the fact that he said that Israel was aware that Hamas were going to strike on...
They allowed
Hamas to go in there so they could then pulverise Gaza and take it over.
That's a pretty widely shared view across the sphere that doesn't involve the mainstream, I would say.
So you mean the internet, basically, James?
Well, I'm saying the internet on the basis that, you know, unfortunately fortunately or unfortunately, that's a reflection of general public opinion across the globe. And you know, I think that with regard to what has been said, if that's what he said, and you take an objective point of view, which is to say that is the most high-tech, heavily guarded, you know, the most impressive defensive zone on planet Earth, and then you play the scenario forward. The fact that they didn't have any prior warning to it, the links between, you know, Netanyahu's funding of Hamas, these are all proven facts. You know, so in terms of his right to be able to express his point of view, and or to express the point of view that a lot of people in the country have, I find it interesting to see the juxtaposition between uncomfortable views, uncomfortable points of views, points of view that may well be difficult to prove, points of view that may well just become irrelevant or be completely incorrect. And the fact that there is a narrative that cannot be questioned in this context, without being called anti-Semitic, without being called anti-Zionist, or whatever you want to slander that person with. Unfortunately, there are a wide range of opinions out there.
Let's not go down the anti-Semitic tunnel and all that rubbish.
Well, that's what it is, Sal.
No, it was nothing.
That's what it is.
No. The guy spoke out against Labour Party policy and Labour Party positions. He's a Labour Party. Hang on, he can have he's entitled to his own opinion. I never stop people with that. But he wasn't entitled to express that opinion whilst running for an election under the Labour Party banner, where they're under strict. Believe me, I was an organiser. No candidate can get up and just say and blurt out whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, wherever they want. It doesn't work like that. So this guy, and on top of that, it wasn't just the one issue. He's said lots of things in meetings. It's all coming out now. Lots of it's coming out. This guy has said lots of things that are just wrong and that are against Labour Party policy. So it's not about him being... You can say he's anti-Semitic. You can say he's entitled...
That's what it is. You have to call things by its name. Look, you are looking at the damage that he's doing to the Labour Party, okay? My worry is that when you throw in a statement like this into the public, some people will buy that argument, okay? Although the statement is completely ridiculous, it doesn't stand for itself.
That's not what Jamie's saying. That's not what Jamie's saying.
No, I'm not.
No, Jamie's saying
I'm talking for myself.
Yes, but Jamie was saying it's a worldwide opinion. Okay, that guy's entitled to his opinion. Therefore, why are you throwing him out of being a candidate? And I'm saying because it's got nothing to do with his opinion on that. It's not Labour Party.
Let me just finish my point, which is you're just worried about the damage that he's doing to the Labour Party, but my worry is the damage that he's doing to a part of society who will buy that argument and will become more anti-Semitic in a world that is turning more anti-Semitic now than it's been for many, many years. And that is a problem. And that's where people in positions of responsibility have to take a responsible action towards eliminating any kind of racism, whether it's anti-Semitic or anything else. And this guy is fueling into society something that is becoming more and more of a problem. And if not, go and ask the Jewish people living in the UK and other parts of the world.
This coming in on the WhatsApps. Ali's message was political, not anti-Semitic, but he shouldn't have been selected in the first place. That's his thought.
Absolutely.
952784000. Jamie, just to come back to your point, I'm going to play devil's avocado here because you know you like it. So here's the thing. It's small.
I do like an avocado.
You do like an avocado, right? What? Okay, so as you've said that there's no bit of border that's more heavily surveilled, but than more heavily surveillance than that particular bit of the Gaza, and so Israel must have known about this attack that's coming on, right? What's in it for Hamas then? If they're going to get apart from getting lots of martyrs, because they're getting pummeled, and we're just seeing this today, and it's the worst case scenario because Netanyahu has shown that he's not going to back down, and whatever you think, the world opinion is starting to turn. You have to say against Israel for what it's doing, or certain sections of Israel for what they're doing.
World opinion is turning against Israel. You say?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking.
I think that's pretty clear. That,
yeah,
it's
when you look back over 100 years, yeah, even Biden's calling him a you know what.
I mean, Biden doesn't know what he's doing, but go on.
Well, that's another true. So what's in it for Netanyahu for this point? I mean, is he just pandering to the more extreme sections of his government and his party?
I would say that's part of it. I would say that he was domestically shot, going down in flames prior to that, and a good old war or something to get stuck into to divert attention from all the various trials and tribulations that he's been going through would be a good little diversion. I mean, we know politicians are prepared to go to war and or create some kind of diversion to avoid their own personal problems. But look, I mean, in terms of, I just don't see it. All of these wars and or this particular situation, for instance, there's been various attempts over the years to get some kind of workable solution there, and these solutions are roundly ignored by the Americans, who are kind of obviously backing up or propping up Israel. And when the debate comes down to it's anti-Semitic, it's causing problems for other people around the world, it's this, it's that, I just feel that that's a diversion away from a very difficult issue that could potentially be resolved, that is not resolved for other particular reasons, in the sense that, you know, the United States are never going to pull out their support for Israel. It is basically a proxy state for the United States in the Middle East. They have got vast interests, as we know, in that zone, and it's mainly to do with oil, gas, and that's really it. The religious nature of it, obviously, for some people it's extremely important, for other people it's not as important. And I think that strategically, this is not what it seems, and it never is. I mean, ultimately, we are looking at these situations through the lens of what was being given to us by the media, which is, if you say something like, well, the most heavily defended border in the world with the what's it called again? This
Iron Dome.
They've got this dome, yeah. The idea that these guys could like fly across, and that, you know, there's various accounts of that contradict what's been said in the media. There's various accounts that just don't stack up in terms of, like, you know, the amount of people that were killed, how they were killed. What I mean, it's just a vast amount of disinformation.
That's the fun.
If you're looking at reports from people who are on the ground, for instance, that don't get mainstream attention, you'll see a very different picture. And ultimately, I just feel that there's something not right here, and even if it was what it's portrayed to be, the idea that it justifies carpet bombing tens of thousands of people, starving them out of no water, no food, no electricity, kids, and women. I mean, I don't understand how that the level of the response in any way justifies what. Or the attack in any way justifies the level of response, and that's just. I mean, anyone with a heart and or a brain in their heads can see that. If you look at the track record of the way that we are manipulated into going into hating certain people, going into war about certain things, going into certain territories for certain reasons. This is just another example of that, where it causes division, it causes problems, and it advances the goals of a particular small part of American, foreign policy, and disrupts the zone. And that's as far as I can see it.
Andreas. So who are we blaming here for this humanitarian disaster, which is no doubt it is? Who are we blaming here? Are we blaming the Israelis? Because as far as I know, the ones that committed a terrorist attack were Hamas. The ones who use human shields inside Gaza are Hamas. The ones that are putting at harm's way the civilian population are Hamas. Hamas have got the ideology that have hit us hard in the heart of Europe, including London, including Madrid, including Paris, and including all of that. And now they are... Are they the good guys now? What? This shifting of public opinion is doing my head in, because I can't see it. Well, I can't see why we are now trying to justify a terrorist organization doing what they're doing, and a free country which has got allies all over, including the United States and so on. They're defending themselves. That's what they're doing. They want to, because it's a terrorist organization that their only aim is to wipe out the Jewish population from Israel, from the face of the earth.
Sorry, Andreas, and that will always be there, has always been there, and will never change, and will never vary.
Where are we siding here?
No, it's not. No, I'm not siding with anybody. I think what the conversation today is about, are Israel going over the top in order to defend themselves. That's the issue. It's not who started it and where it came from. You can forget all that. Yeah, of course they want revenge. Of course they want the hostages released. Of course they want peace in the area, etc., etc. But you just have to listen. You ask the question and you have to give the answer. Why is Netanyahu doing what he's doing? Well, this is my old adage. The guy wants to stay in power in Israel. There are 4 Hamas regiments. He's already, dictated that until those 4 regiments are wiped off the face of the earth, then he's going to carry on. That is not what the rest of the world are saying. The rest of the world are saying, well, how do you know that they're not going to calm down and stop if we don't have conversations with them? Of course, Hamas will never, ever stop hating the Jews and wanting to kill the Jews. Of course they won't stop doing that. But there are ways, we've said it all the time, you can negotiate for a peace, which is stopping people from killing each other, not necessarily getting them to love each other and live with each other.
956-4,000. Just going to do a quick break because we're having such a viewpoint this morning that I haven't even had to do a commercial break yet. So I'm going to do this first of all.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively, out of the blocks like Usain Bolt on some interesting substances this morning. If you want to get involved with the show, 952-78-4000 is the phone number, studio@tre.radio is the email, the Facebook page is Talk Radio Official. You can WhatsApp me on +34 645 99 67 95. To the WhatsApps we go. Thank you for this. This is 89% of Americans get news online from smartphone or computer. Good morning to you, Gary. Seem to forget the Hamas attack was time to mess up the Israel-Saudi Arabia treaty that's now been put on hold. Here, Jamie. So those are the things coming in. To the lines we go. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hello, it's Gil from Calpe.
Oh.
Yeah,
Morning
can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. I think it was Alpha said, I'm not sure now, that this is a matter of Netanyahu trying to be popular. Now, of course, only about 20% of the people in Israel vote for him, but on the question of the war, most people back his effort to continue with what he's doing, and that is trying to eliminate Hamas, not talk to them, but eliminate them and get the hostages out. Now, another thing is that people forget, people always refer to the 7th of October, but this has been going on more or less from 2007. This is the 5th time that Israel has attacked Gaza. So in the previous 4 times, they tried to do it a little bit, with a little bit more consideration to civilian population and not to attack so fiercely. But it didn't work. The Hamas continued with launching rockets. Most of them, they were not very targeted, so they fell just in the fields and there's the Iron Dome as well. But no country can afford that rockets are launched continuously in its skies. They made that to Hamas very clearly, and by bombing them quite a bit in the past few years, but nothing seemed to work. So now they're trying a much direct approach. But of course, civilians are going to get killed, and civilians get killed in every war. You can't avoid it.
Yep.
I didn't say, by the way, that Netanyahu was trying to become popular, because that's
sorry, maybe somebody else said it.
No, I did say quite clearly is he wants to stay in power. There is a difference between being popular and staying in power. At the moment, they're extending. I'm not absolutely certain, but are they not extending their election process in order, until such time as this is all sorted out, which means that he stays in power. And when you've got the ego of these people, just remember that. People often ask me, why didn't you stand for Parliament? Why didn't you stand for election for this, that? And I go, because my ego was never big enough. I was never going to stamp on my friends in order to gain a position of power. But my influence always was as being the kingmaker. And the other thing that we always forget, we uphold told these things as if everybody else is wrong and we're right.
Yeah.
And I just go, we've still got a massive problem in Myanmar. Myanmar, part of the problem of Myanmar was when it was converting from Burma to Myanmar was the British involvement. Yeah, it was the British who were encouraging all that ethnic cleansing or religious cleansing or whatever it was, and we sit back and go, oh, this should never be happening, and now we're supporting this person, and we forget that it's always a vested interest. And I go, and Jamie's right, you know, America have got huge vested interests in Israel. Britain has got huge vested interests in the Middle East. And always have had. So they get caught on this dilemma, and you go, well, you've got vested interests, except for when it comes to Iran. You know, because Iran are going to support them.
I think if you want to eradicate a terrorist organisation, then stop, you know, pumping them full of money. Stop supplying them with guns.
We don't know
and I think in terms of regarding the hostage situation, I mean, of course the hostages should be returned, but again, the numbers just don't stack up. I mean, I understand that there's going to be civilian casualties. I understand that there's certain, you know, high value targets that need to be taken out. I understand the dirty tactics. I understand that Hamas is not in any way an organisation that should be lauded or supported. But, you know, there's no way you could possibly argue that the response to what has happened has somehow been justified and killing. I mean, this is the other thing. If you're talking about eradicating a terrorist organisation by essentially creating another generation of terrorists, every single family that's lost a kid, a child, a cousin, or whatever, every single one of those guys will be sitting there going, do you know what? I'm going to become a terrorist of some sort because I've done nothing to inflict pain on Israel. I've done nothing apart from try to live my life in Palestine, and yet I'm getting carpet bombed and starved and dehydrated and just basically driven to the end of life. So if you're talking about eradicating terrorists, the best thing to do is probably have a chat with them.
No, with Hamas there's nothing to chat about. I mean, in their constitution from 1988, they said that their mission is to kill all the Jews in the world. It's not enough for them to liberate, quote-unquote, Palestine that doesn't exist. I mean, they don't want just to destroy Israel. They want to destroy all the Jews in the world, according to the original constitution that has never been abrogated. So there's not much to talk about with them. I mean, they are religious fanatics. They're just like the Muslim Brothers. They're an offshoot of the Muslim Brothers. And that's why Sisi in Egypt decided to kill as many of them as he could, which he has done. Yeah. Now, as for the proportionality and the extent that Israel is going with bombing this area, if you look at other conflicts, all the conflicts from about 1990 till today, and look at a ratio of how many civilians to combatants. Okay, by the 90s it's gone up mainly because wars have moved into the cities rather than in the countries.
But the problem is, and I'm sorry to interrupt you there. The thing is, it's highly visible, and this is an area they think they're going to be safe in. And you would kind of say, why doesn't Egypt open the border and let these people through if it's there? Because they seem to be.
That is a good question.
Because they hate Hamas.
Yes,
because they hate Hamas, they hate Hamas as much as the Israelis do. So they're not going to open the borders and let all them come through, are they?
Exactly. So that's the whole point that I'm trying to make here. Who are we blaming here? Are we blaming Israel? Are we blaming Hamas?
Yes, well, the Egyptians don't want the people of Hamas in their country because they're the same extremists, and if they allow refugees to come in, there'll be Hamas people coming in as well. They just don't want to take a risk at all. Okay, and maybe they're not very compassionate towards the Palestinians. I don't know, but I was saying that civilians get killed in every war, and if you look at all the wars since the 90s, it's about, in a typical war, 90% of those who get killed are civilians, not combatants. Okay, and in the case, if we can justify, if we can judge by the numbers from the Hamas authorities, it's about 27,000 people killed now. Okay, but most of them are combatants. I mean, well, according to Israel's point of view, about 20,000 are combatants. Of course, it's very hard to distinguish between a combatant and a non-combatant, because the people in Hamas, they don't wear uniform.
Sure.
Some of them are 15-year-olds.
They hide with the civil population as well. Exactly. They hide. They put them out harm's way. So Israel, there was a press release the other day saying, please put these civilians out of harm's way because we're going to hit there, and they don't. So they don't because they're hiding behind civilian population. They're callous. They are terrorists.
Yes,
and they don't care.
But the civilian population, with all due respect, some of them would have stood up against Hamas at some stage.
Very difficult.
But of course it's difficult. And I'll tell you, you listen to what Jamie was saying.
Yeah.
If you want to push people in, how do you recruit more people for Hamas? Well, keep doing what you're doing because it'll be the best recruitment tool. And you only have to look at examples around the world. It's just I could do from a British point of view, more people joined the IRA because of what the British Army did in Northern Ireland. Absolutely, because they feed on it. How about Bosnia and Serbia and all these other countries that had it? They're driven by their passion and their dogma and whatever it is they do.
Right. But if we take your point of view to the extreme, then we won't be able to do anything against terrorists because whenever we want to do something against terrorists,
unfortunately, we're all against terrorists.
Yeah.
But we all agree sometimes with them defending the people they're defending.
Right, got some more calls coming in. 952 78 4000. Thank you for calling, Gil. I'll probably hear from you later. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. Thank you for holding. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hello, Felix here.
Good morning, Felix.
How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Most of you people there are British, and I'm Irish. And as British people, you have got a special responsibility in this situation because the League of Nations, Lord Balfour, and then later the Paris Conference and the League of Nations then officially gave Britain the mandate to create a homeland for the Jews. Britain ended up actually blocking refugees from Germany and other places to escape the Nazis in the Holocaust. I forget the figure, but under the White Paper of 1939, they allowed a certain number of refugees, Jewish refugees, in per year, but it was such a small number. I think it was 15,000 over 5 years, while Jews were being massacred in their millions. And Britain kept to that, even kept to that after the Holocaust. So you people have got a special responsibility for what's happened there. The second thing is that you have never acknowledged on this program that the founder of the Palestinians was Haj Amin al-Sini, otherwise known as the Mufti of Jerusalem, who travelled to Berlin in 1940 and who played a major role in the Holocaust and the killing of Jews, advised Hitler and the Nazis, if they needed advising, that they had to kill every Jew. But emigration was not the thing to do. And Haj Amin al-Sini then, after the war, was wanted for prosecution by the Serbs, and he was arrested in France, but he was under house arrest, and he had a very easy task of escaping. He went to Egypt, and there he proceeded to be a mentor to Yasser Arafat and a number of other youths, which became Fatah and Hamas.
Right. Okay.
And between Fatah and Hamas, and that brings us to the present day. You tell me how the Jews, after the attack of October 7, you tell me how Jews are going to be able to live within a few miles of people who carried out that attack. Now, the situation now, and I'll finish with this, the situation now is that everybody, the British, the Irish, and every country in Europe and Europe are calling, and Biden are calling on the Jews to have a ceasefire with Hamas, let them escape, let them recreate this again one more time, whenever they want, and they'll get the backing of the world. No wonder the Jews feel isolated and feel bitter. Back to the Holocaust days of when they were being helpless, were being smashed. One thing, the Jews are now sending in women in quite big numbers into the tunnels, and it will be the women, the Jewish women, who will kill Hamas. Who will kill Hamas?
Okay.
Because there are Jewish women who are in the IDF as equal partners with their men.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you for your call in there. Going to a break and then more Viewpoint.
Viewpoint with Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. Joined in the studio by Alf Brewer, Alex Gallardo playing Peacekeeper, and Jamie Hamilton Milan. If you want to get involved with the show this morning, then these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Always live, always live. Just let me get to the WhatsApps first. Okay, so just two things. A 5-year-old Palestinian girl who was trapped in a car with her dead relatives after it came under Israeli fire in Gaza last month was killed. And how come British Gas did a deal with the Palestinian authorities for gas, but now Israel has it? I don't know anything about that one. Meanwhile...
One there, to be fair, Giles.
What?
It's a pretty big one, that.
Okay, fair enough. I'll be with you in a second. What percentage of collateral damage is acceptable, then, is the next one. Thank you for that. And the conflict cannot be seen in a vacuum. This is a proxy war. However, I feel like that many that the Israeli actions are disproportionate. In 1945, the Bishop of Chichester argued the Allies' bombing of Germany went too far. If that was said then, it can certainly be said now. And do the maths. The number of killed Hamas fighters and those now seeking revenge in the future, which was Jamie's point. Don't look for blame, look for peace. Our parents teach, another one saying, our parents teach us to walk away from a fight, not engage in it. I wonder if we should rethink this and start beating the hell out of everybody that starts a fight with us.
I mean, you can see there, like, overwhelming. And ultimately, I think what I was saying last time I was on, Alf, and what I'm going to say, I don't know if you listened to that one, was that ultimately we're not getting the full story. We never do get the full story, and we can see that it's been repeated over and over and over and over again. Whatever you are seeing pumped out on the channels at the moment is just not the full truth, and if anything, it's got a massive agenda attached to it, and you can see from the WhatsApps there that there's, the majority of them are saying, okay, fine, we don't like Hamas, but like, what is a respectable amount of civilian or dead babies? What's an acceptable amount of dead babies, dead women, blown up hospitals? What's an acceptable amount? And also, I don't know the stats that were brought up previously, but if you're going back over the last few wars or the many wars that have taken place over the last 20 odd years, the vast majority of them have been an extremely well-financed army basically invading a country. It's not the same as, Russia versus the Nazis on the Eastern Front. That's not the same war. And if there's going to, this idea that you can sort of somehow justify the amount of civilian casualties based on the fact that it's gone up slightly in the last 20 years, to me, just seems utterly insane.
To the lines we go. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hi, Brian in Mallorca.
Morning, Brian.
Good morning. I'm quite surprised that people are surprised about the Palestinians wanting the Israelis out. When the Second World War ended, my father was sent down from the 8th Army to join the Palestine Police. And Israel had just been formed while he was working there. I think it was his second stint. He came back from when I was born and then went back there again, served for a while more. And he was called to a house in legally Palestine at that time. And there was a house there, a nice house with a family living there. And there was an Israeli army officer with 2 soldiers, armed soldiers, demanding that these people leave because he wanted to move his family into these Palestinians' house in Palestine. Now, this is like the thin end of the wedge that's happened all the way through there. They've taken more and more of Palestine. So how can you blame the Palestinians for wanting their land back because it's been stolen all the time?
I don't think anybody's blaming the Palestinians other than they've not managed to create themselves a government that can stand up for itself. People are blaming Hamas. Hamas are not Palestinians. Hamas is a terrorist organisation made up of all sorts of tribal people, no doubt.
Well, just like the IRA was, yeah.
No. The IRA wasn't made up of loads of different people from all over the world.
From all over Ireland. But anyway, that's the point.
Not even from all over Ireland.
Been stealing Palestine all this time,
yes,
and no one's done anything.
Hang on, no, it's not that nobody did anything. Quite the reverse. The British allowed it to happen. Never walk away from the responsibility of the British people, our predecessors, who I hate, the amount of damage they did to the world, and we have to suffer being accused of doing all these things on behalf of Britain. Nobody did it on my behalf or my dad's behalf or anybody else's behalf. What my family did was fought in a war. Nevertheless, I want to come back a little bit as well to what Jamie says, that you never quite get the truth. About 3 weeks ago, we were having a discussion, and I was saying about why they couldn't send the aircraft carriers. You remember? Why we couldn't send them to the Red Sea. And Gary rang in and said, but you also don't got to take into account, this is what Gary said 4 weeks ago. They can't send the aircraft carriers because the aircraft carriers need repairing.
Yeah, they need.
Yes. So what happens is enough pressure comes on because of the cargo not being able to go through the Red Sea, and the British Navy go, we're going to send the aircraft carriers. The aircraft carrier couldn't leave port because it was faulty. It's got a faulty thing. Now Gary told us that Gary, who's not in the Royal Navy, Gary who has these people in the MOD, presumably, who give him this, and I go, well done, Gary, but this is why we don't get the information. We say, why ain't they sending the aircraft carriers? The British government, under pressure from British people, say we're going to send an aircraft carrier, and Gary, who's known all along, they can't send an aircraft carrier because it's under repair.
Got another call coming in, just quickly. Thank you for your call as well, by the way. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
It's Gil from Calpe once again. Answering the elder person who talked about his father being in the British police of Palestine and somebody there was evacuated. Well, look, in every war there's ethnic cleansing, and there was ethnic cleansing in 1948, okay? But most of the people ran away because they were afraid there was a war and they were afraid of revenge. And the thing is, the conflict did not start in 1948. Everybody goes back to how the poor Palestinians, all that. The conflict started in 1920, okay? And the Palestinians, those we call today Palestinians, in those days it was the Arabs of Palestine. They started it, and this is back to the point which I think Felix made, This is Haj Amin al-Husseini, who was a fanatic and a Nazi sympathizer.
Sorry, we're going to run out of time as we come to the top of the hour, but thank you for calling, Gil. We'll be back with more Viewpoint after this.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
And we're back. Always live, always lively today, proving no exception on this Tuesday, the 13th of February. Thank you very much. On this National Radio Day in Spain, 100 years of Spain.
Is it Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday the 13th.
Every day is Friday here at TRE. Every day is Christmas, every night is New Year's Eve, every morning is the end of the world. Joined in the studio by Anders Gallardo, Jamie Hamilton Milan, and Alf Brewer. Alf, you have a question?
I did. It's just right from the very beginning of the programme, because it's annoying me, because I've never heard of it.
The programme's annoying you, yeah.
Please tell
join the audience.
Please, someone ring in and please tell me, what is an unmentionable part of an ostrich?
Because in the Bush Tucker trials on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. What was that? Oh, that was you. Was that you unzipping something?
Yeah.
When he said unmentionable part of an ostrich, Jamie, we didn't want to show and tell.
Sorry.
Might you go all red?
It's a button fly. So
It's a okay. Fine. Was that your man bag?
Yeah, that was my man.
Okay, fine. Sorry about that. That's going to be used in a promo. I'm sorry. Tonight, Viewpoint unzipped. Alf. Oh, right, no, sorry. On the Bush Tucker trials in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, I think Farage or Hancock had to eat ostrich genitalia. Thank you. That's why.
That's why.
That's why.
All right.
So
That's something stupid.
That's your question. That's your answer. Okay. And talking. Excuse me. Talking about this, good morning to Pompey, who said, for FFS, did Alf just say, well done to me? I just spat my tea out. And my title is Pompey, so there you go. Title, yeah. Sir Pompey of Harry.
She's fighting title.
It's his fighting name, exactly. From in the red corner, or in the blue corner.
De Guerre, as he calls it.
It's Nom de Guerre. Right then, let's have a look at some of the other bits and pieces. Paul's come in. Reform UK or George Galloway. Geez, what a choice for voters in Rochdale. Galloway has form. There's a marine national gas field off Gaza. Israel have already given 11 licenses to 6 companies for exploration. This includes British multinational company BP and the Italian energy giants Eni. Winning companies will commit to 3 years further exploration, with options to extend a maximum of 7 years. There's big money off the coast of Gaza, and the West know it. And another one saying, hi, just a nudge. What about the gas and oil? So there you go. Thank you very much for those. Mark's come in. John Craven's News Round. Here we go. A kids' news channel when you and I were kids, absolutely, during the troubles in Israel land grabbing despite the partition agreements. No civilians should die. Thank you very much indeed. I want to move away from that subject because we've done it for the first hour. Let's go to the States. See what's happening there. It has been, the past week has been very interesting indeed. And no, we're not mentioning Taylor Swift. It's okay, Andres. But I know, and Jamie, I know you were ready to go on your whole Taylor Swift rant there. But
Talking about?
No. The first of all, we had this report coming out that on Biden's mental capabilities, or therefore, and the saying that if he stood trial in front of a jury, they'd see him as a sweet, basically I'm paraphrasing, a sweet old man who was a bit forgetful, leader of the free world. Lost of memory, thank you. And also, so we had that to begin with. And then in the same week, a couple of days ago, Tucker Carlson has an interview with Putin, an interview I'm not saying in parentheses, and then Donald Trump, who has seemingly got this continuing his American first policy, says that if NATO countries do not pay their full amounts, then he would invite Russia to go and do what the hell they want to with it. That would seem to Biden's lack of, or seeming lack of mental clarity seems to have handed Trump this election on a plate. Jamie, you were looking quizzical.
Well, I was just wondering where you were going with that. I haven't heard the comment that you've referenced that apparently Trump has made. But you know, I over the last few years, I've started to realise that most of what he says is massively taken out of context or slightly manipulated. But I mean, look, if you're talking about, or you want to talk about Joe Biden, I mean, it's pretty simple. His own, I don't know what the department was that did this interview with him. If they're saying he's incapable of being prosecuted for a crime due to his lack of mental acuity, then it's either one or the other. He's either capable of being prosecuted for a crime because he's not deranged, or he's not president. I mean, you can't have someone who's not fit to stand trial or to be prosecuted for a crime, and yet apparently, in inverted commas, run the biggest country in the world. That just it's like literally watching a clown show at the moment. So yeah, I mean, from the bigger, broader point of view, I mean, he's not going to run. There's no two ways about it. The question is, who's going to replace him? So I mean, I guess they would be setting up Kamala, but I mean, everybody hates her as well. So I mean, it's just the American political debate at the moment is just a farce. And again, I think not to draw it back to my original points from the week or a couple of weeks back I was on. You know, it's just an artificially created debate amongst people who probably agree on most topics, and ultimately, at the moment, America is wasting vast swathes of cash on various proxy wars around the world, and meanwhile the country is going to hell in a handbasket. You know, there's no investment, there's no infrastructure, nobody has any healthcare. It's just an absolute debacle. And the fact that anyone's even debating Joe Biden's capabilities as a president is just insane to me. The guy is clearly not there.
Yes, let me start with Trump. That's quite interesting because Trump has got the ability to make controversy out of any declarations that he makes, any statement they put across. The way he said, let Putin go and, sort of start a war with NATO countries and so on. The point he was trying to put across, and he failed to put it across correctly, is a point that he's already come out with before, is to say the NATO is a club of countries, and they all have to equally and proportionally contribute towards the NATO effort. A lot of the countries are members of NATO. That includes Spain, is one of the countries that least provides with funds to NATO. He's just saying we are committing to NATO, and not all of the countries are having the same commitment. Why should we be supporting these countries that they are not contributing? So it's a way of saying, come on, guys, if we're going to have this club, we all have to put our weight. The problem with Trump is when he puts things across, he creates controversy and he feeds the rivals to say what he's trying to do is get Putin to attack NATO countries, which is not the point he's trying to make. But I think it's so thick that he cannot put the points across correctly.
But this goes back to this goes back to traditional isolationist American foreign policy, which we've had. World wars notwithstanding, but they've always had over there, America first, Second World War, First World War. The American foreign policy has been from 45 onwards until around about now. It has been much more pro-European and looking outwards, but now we see the American foreign policy massively looking inwards, as it has done traditionally. Alf.
But at the end of the day, Trump, Biden as well, American presidents, they all come across as if they've got this big I am ego stuff, but they don't control what's going on. It's big business in America that control it, and the amount of investment that the states have got in Europe. Remember, they bailed Europe out after the Second World War. They bought Germany. You know, they're not. They can't physically, they can't walk away from it, and they're not going to allow people to walk away from it. And they didn't allow Trump, whatever he says, to walk away from Iran and that last time. And for Jamie's benefit, what Trump was reported to have said wasn't from some media source. It was off his I think it was his Instagram or whatever. It was his social media, and it was a platform.
Truth Social is his thing. I mean, before then he was allowed back on X.
Well, it was his stuff. They put it up on the screen. It was his stuff. It wasn't them reporting his stuff. It was his stuff. And I find with all of this, I'm finding it even more extremely difficult because, forgetting Trump, we can all say whether we like him. He's Marmite, isn't he? But then so is Biden, as far as I'm concerned, because he's old, he's frail, he's whatever they want to do. And you just go, for the American people, you know, how many 180 billion people or whatever they've got in America, and all they can come up with is two bloody antiquated.
I think that was a Joe Biden number. That.
Well, however many. Okay, it's 22. I really don't care. It's called. They must have other people who are capable of doing this thing.
They do.
Yes, but
they have a vast amount of capable people, but they'll never be allowed to run.
No.
What was the Santos spent on his?
I'm not into that conspiracy about never being allowed.
Not a conspiracy theory.
Trump
absolutely.
Trump bought himself. No, it's not a fact, because Trump bought himself into it, and they have a democratic system,
right,
and they have a democratic electoral system, and he could be outvoted if the people were determined to outvote him. They could outvote him, but they don't. And you go, 180 billion or however many it is, I don't care. However many billion people go, we still want him.
And there's million.
Yeah, but there's
billion, trillion.
But there's as many people as well, worse luck, who are saying that Biden is capable of carrying on. And you go, this is just nonsense. From an outsider, because we're all the outsiders in this, we go, neither one of them should be the candidate. Neither one. They should be coming up with newer, younger, more vibrant, more outward-looking,
better prepared.
Yeah, whatever people. Rather than these two. But we get sucked into this, as you quite rightly have said over the time, Jamie. Yes, we have no choice because the media determine this is what we want, and the media and the money that goes with it. You know, you can't be the president of the United States of America unless you put about $100 million into your campaign. Sure. It's getting similar in the UK, by the way, which is why they wanted to put caps on election expenses. You can buy yourself into these positions, and it's just democracy of the West is becoming ridiculed by money. That's what's worst of it. We proclaim that we're Democrats. We proclaim that we have free elections. Like Putin. Oh yeah, free elections in Russia, of course. You know, but I would imagine that Putin puts a fair amount of money into his getting re-elected every time.
Because it's a kleptocracy, as I was saying. Now, population of America, 331.9n million.
339 million, so it's less than a billion.
Yes.
How many Indians?
Considerably less.
Yes.
But still, in 331 million,
I don't care. There's a lot of people to choose from.
I would agree with that, but there is 331 million people to choose from. Two better candidates than what they've got at the moment.
95278.
With Biden, and just in agreement with what he's been said, and it's not being ageist to say that he cannot. He's not suitable candidate because he's obviously got problems with his memory loss, mobility, and everything else. It's nothing to do with being ageist, because Mick Jagger has got the same age and is touring the world with the Rolling Stones. So there's nothing to do with age. It's to do with
what I love about Viewpoint is the fact that we can go off on these very strange tangents. The perfect ticket would be the Jagger-Richards President's Alliance. I can see it now.
And the other thing, remember, these guys have some sort of power over that people don't understand. I don't think Trump has ever understood it. NATO was formed effectively by Britain and America as an anti-communist thing. It wasn't a westernised, let's save the world. It was North Atlantic Treaty Organisation was about protecting the rest of the world from the communists of what Russia had created.
The Warsaw Pact
was the other side.
Yes.
No, they created the Warsaw Pact after NATO. In order to protect the communists from the West. So, and we go round and round the circle. It's all about let's build a side and let's then defend what we're defending. But NATO was never designed, and they go through all these machinations about you've got to put 3% of GDP. And Spain, by the way, Andreas, they have argued quite successfully through NATO. It's not just about putting 3% of GDP into NATO as an organisation. Since democracy came into Spain, the amount of increase in their foreign involvement, with their Spanish army and the Spanish navy and the Spanish air force and the growth of it, Spain argued quite successfully for a number of years, we can't put money into NATO and rebuild our own armed services, and it was accepted by NATO. So Trump
Tell that to Trump.
Yeah, but Trump comes along and says, "Oh no, you got to put in 3% GDP." He takes no account of it. It's like, just flippant. We do this because America presumably toss a coin and say, "Oh, let's put $1 billion into this part of the fund," and the same applies for a lot of the countries. You can't say the same of Sweden and Norway and Finland and Denmark, all of those countries that were under almost direct threat from the Russians, who have always had good armed forces and well preserved and well maintained. But then you're now talking about Slovenia and Latvia, Lithuania, all these other countries that came from the communist bloc, and Trump says, "Oh, we're not going to defend you anymore if you don't put 3% of your GDP." They can't hardly afford to feed their population, let alone put money into arms. It's just so he says junk, but it's dangerous junk, damaging junk, and it just sounds bad. Trump for Trump.
But as a political argument to their own people to say we are pulling the weight and the others aren't, that works really well for his electorate. Absolutely. And that's what he's doing.
Yeah, Trump for Trump.
Yeah, but I mean, again, separating personalities from, the debate, since Biden's gone to war or come into power, and same with Barack Obama, the amount of wars and proxy wars and investment and death has just skyrocketed, and under Trump it didn't. He stopped, and he did make a few incursions into foreign territory with a few bombs here and there, but ultimately didn't start any wars. And his point with regard to NATO is that it's just provoking Russia. And if you go back to the Tucker interview, the fact that you can say whatever you like about Vladimir Putin, but the guy has an extremely impressive grasp of history. He's eloquent, he's a statesman, and he delivered vast amounts of information in a 2.5 hour interview with Tucker Carlson. Tucker was actually on stage recently, just after the interview, saying that he's been derided, he's been put on the Ukraine kill list. He's been told he's a puppet, he's a traitor, he's this, he's that. But the reality of the matter is that he basically made the fundamental point that he was born in America, which is supposed to be a free and democratic country, and in a democratic country, you have to listen to other people's opinions. You have to examine other people's points of view, and sunlight is the only way to either expose an incorrect argument or to agree with it. And he basically had been trying to interview, according to him, Vladimir Putin for 3 years. His own Secret Service, or various bodies of the Secret Service, the NSA and the CIA, were tapping his phone and basically making it impossible for him to do it. So his rationale was that, well, one, surely if the guy's completely insane, if the guy's a complete warmonger and he's a danger to the world and he's going to escalate to World War III, we should at least speak to him. It's not, in terms of what he said, he didn't. I don't think he said anything particularly unreasonable when he was allowed to speak for 2.5 hours. And at the same time, Trump is highlighting the NATO issue. If I mean, again, I go back to the old point with regard to the Ukraine issue. If there was an equivalent of NATO, which involved China, Iran, India, Mexico, or whatever, and they stuck a bunch of basically military sites on the border of America and or Canada, do you not think there would be some kind of a reaction?
Cuba.
Going live to the line. Morning call. Going live to the line. Thank you for holding call. A morning call. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Felix here.
Felix.
Hi. On that point about the equivalent between America and Russia, if we know what happened, the Russians tried to set rockets in Cuba directed at America. A very stupid thing to do. And there was almost a nuclear war. We know that. We've got full evidence of that. So we know that that has happened. Yet the issue of NATO installing nukes on the border of Russia, a very wide border, very long border, and the reaction and expecting that Russia would just lie down and take it is really too much. So Jamie is right on that. That must be kept in mind. The other thing that must be kept in mind is why such a fuss over this interview with Putin, because all of the media has given one point of view and hasn't allowed any other point of view to take place. Proof: the fuss over Putin, the Putin-Carlson interview. That should be the most normal thing in the world, to get Putin's point of view. And in fact, the interview was amazingly truthful, because I happen to know what happened in April 1922, when the war just hardly got going, 2 months after he invaded. They had a meeting, a conference, an extended conference, took place in Istanbul in April 2022. And they had agreement between the Russians and the Ukrainians. The person in charge of Ukrainian delegation actually initialed a provisional agreement, so it was almost there, and it was very, very, very generous to Ukraine. For example, Donbass was getting it was becoming autonomous. It wasn't going to be Russian. Then what happened? And this is for you guys there in the studio. You've never discussed this before, but it applies to you very definitely. Johnson, at the bidding of Biden, went across to Kiev, and he convinced Zelensky not to go ahead with that, to scrap it, that they would win the war, that such would be the support of the West, that Russia would be defeated. This is for sure. We've got every evidence that this happened. And the result of that was that I think 500,000 poor Ukrainian young men are dead. A good number, maybe 200,000 of Russians are dead. Maybe approaching 1 million altogether.
I think you're spot on, Felix.
Because of Johnson. Johnson is the man. And Britain.
Thank you for your call in, Felix. This panel are going to respond now.
Yeah, no, I agree with much of what you just said there, Felix. The reality of the matter is that there was, and there is, and there currently is an opportunity to discuss some kind of peace settlement. But again, just like what's happening in Israel, it's not what's wanted at the higher echelons of the military-industrial complex, the elite, the power brokers, the geopolitical forces that unfortunately we seem to ignore when we're talking about these wars. Ultimately, I mean, the idea that Ukraine could in any way win just in terms of sheer size and numbers is just insane, and the whole situation again is another version of the same events that are playing out over and over again, and at the expense of innocent people, at the expense of, you know, I mean, if people want to talk about the environment, for instance, the greatest or the worst case of environmental terrorism with and also the, you know, potentially the destruction of the European economy as a result of blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. You know, there's just all these hideous events occurring at the behest of a bunch of people that we don't even really have any control over and have no knowledge of who they actually are. So yeah, I think the point that you made about the Minsk agreements and just the fact that there always is a way to peace is totally fair.
Andreas? Just a very quick point. I mean, the wars not necessarily are won by the biggest ones, because the USSR went into Afghanistan, they lost that war. We know what happened to America in Vietnam and so on. So not always the bigger country and the bigger army are guaranteed to win the war. But we, again, with time, we have been losing the focus of what happened here. Ukraine was a sovereign country with its borders for 30 years, and they were invaded by the Russian army illegally, and they started a war. When we say that, you know, Zelensky's had a lot of media attention around the world, yes, it is. But let's not forget, Putin controls the whole of the media output in Russia, and you can only hear the version of that side in Russia. So how would you negotiate? How would you negotiate to get out of these? Well, they have to reestablish the borders as they were, and then sit at the table. So withdraw the troops and sit at the table and see what we do with the eastern flank of Ukraine, which I understand that a lot of people there are pro-Russian. Some of us aren't. So
they're not pro-Russian. They are Russian.
Well, okay.
And ultimately, there was a war. The Ukrainians were bombing apparently their own citizens for years before this all kicked off. The idea that it's just like Russia just randomly invaded for no reason. It's just absolutely. It's like starting a Shakespeare play in Act 3.
This is started much earlier than that, but the solution to it is just reestablish the sovereign borders that they had before, and then let's see what can be negotiated. Yeah, but invading because the other problem, but I mentioned this before, is when you invade a country, and let's say that Russia wins the war, what happens next? What happens as you annex that part of the...
Well, can we go? I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with the answers to what happens next.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. 23 minutes to go. Just a couple of WhatsApps to go through. If you want to get your viewpoint across on this very entertaining one, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Pompey of Gary comes in saying, suggests people see Putin's series of interviews with Oliver Stone very enlightening, and the West broke gentleman's agreement in 1992 vis-a-vis NATO's relationship with Russia. 11% of Ukraine are native Russians. Meanwhile, when you listen to Trump talk, he sounds like a dictator, thug-type person, but when you talk to Putin, he sounds like an intelligent, intellectual, diplomatic person. Well, he was the head of KGB, wasn't he? So, meanwhile, Dirk, good morning to you. Good morning. Putin has a total self-serving version of history. When it comes to Ukraine, he's deliberately wrong. It's a country and a capital easily 5 centuries older than the Duchy of Moscow, out of which the greater empire of Russia was born, the Rus, etc. The Russian Orthodox Church was born in Kiev too. How can anyone say that Putin has a grasp of history is beyond me. Panel.
Well, could I? Because there was a number of things that were said, but first of all, they were talking about the Russians, native Russians, and I never said they were native Russians. That's like saying I'm a native Brit. I'm not a native Brit. I'm an expat Brit. I'm a whatever. I'm an immigrant of Spain. I've lived here for 20 years with a huge British population, and we don't call ourselves Brits. The difference is, and what I listened fascinated to Andreas. And you said quite clearly we should go back to the borders as they were. What borders are you talking about? Because the whole of Ukraine used to be part of the USSR. And not only that, there was an agreement going back years. The first thing that the Russians didn't want to do was to be trapped, for their navy to be trapped inside the Black Sea. So they created the port in Crimea. I think it's the second biggest naval.
What, Odessa?
No, Odessa's not. No, Crimea,
yeah.
Sebastopol.
Yeah.
I think it's the second biggest naval port for Russia. The other one being St. Petersburg. And so they put all their eggs in, and then what happens is, and it's the same thing that everybody's been saying, Jamie was saying, NATO come along and they're a threat. So what are they a threat to? They're a threat to try to push the Russians out of the Crimea, which is what they supposedly invaded. Remember that I think it was 85% of the population of Crimea, not Ukraine, but Crimea, were ex-Russians. They were born, their whole life revolves around Russian. And all of a sudden, we've got to say, right, they get back out of them borders. You've got to go back to what they were. It's a pile of nonsense. And then it's like, did they invade a country? And it's called, because they had Crimea, and because Putin wanted that land bridge between Russia and the Crimea, so it wasn't just a sea bridge, it was a land bridge, and he built that bridge, but he wanted a proper land bridge so it would never be isolated again because of the threat of NATO, not for any other reason. So what happens is that the Ukrainians, we're not talking about last year, this is before 2014, they were still killing people in the Crimea, they were still killing people in the Donbass, they were still doing all sorts of nonsense. They had all their what they call them, where you dig an hole and shoot people from, like in the First World War, trench warfare. Yeah. They had all their trenches there and everything. And all of a sudden, now I'm not defending what Russia have done, but sometimes you have to understand where people are coming from. And always, in my humble opinion, the best solution is to sit round the table and come up with an agreement where both sides will never be satisfied. You know my view on that. Compromising isn't satisfaction.
Compromise isn't satisfactory.
It's not satisfactory to both, but it is a solution to peace, and that's what you're trying to drive down. Now, if everybody believes that Western argument that once Putin has established himself back into that land bridge, which means the Donbass and the Crimea becomes part of Russia as such, he wants to then move on and take the rest of Ukraine. He wants to move on and take the rest of the old Eastern Bloc countries. One by one he's going to do. And that's a fear factor that I'm not sure anybody has really analysed to any great
the old domino effect that they used to go into Vietnam.
Absolutely.
It sounds like absolute nonsense.
And well, I never say it's nonsense because people die. It's not nonsense, but I don't believe Putin wants to take back all the countries. I think he would love it if the countries volunteered to go back.
Let me just make a quick point with regards to what the borders. When the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1990, I think it was
November 9th, my birthday.
The 89, but Ukraine was formed a year after, and it was an independent. It was an independent country, sovereign
Ukraine's
country.
Always been there. It wasn't created.
No, it was as an independent country away from the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union was there no more. That's a sovereign country to me, and it's been a sovereign country for 30 years. When the Russians took Crimea, you are right. 80% of the population were Russian, and there was no retaliation. But now to go and across the border, the legitimate borders recognized internationally that was Ukrainian territory.
So
that's an invasion.
What other border did it go across?
The Donbass.
No. They were already in the Donbass. They were fighting trench warfare in the Donbass.
I seem to remember the images of all the tanks lining up, ready to cross the border, and he took the step of crossing the border. That to me is an invasion.
No, that was the bit where he threatened Kiev because of what they were doing in Crimea. So he started on the easy target, which is the opposite side of Ukraine, where he's got Belarus sitting there to provide all the platform and easy entrance. The fact that they messed it all up is irrelevant.
So I've learned something new. There was no invasion, and they didn't cross sovereign borders of another country. Is that what I'm learning today?
The Russian people, by a majority, were already in the Donbass. They were already there. They've been there for centuries.
Right, let's look at some of the stuff coming in on the WhatsApps. Khrushchev gave Crimea to Ukraine in 1956. If Brits move to Spain, they're still British. Thank you. We seem to forget that Ukraine was a sovereign state finally between the end of the First World War and the violent takeover by the Bolsheviks. The borders were the same as today. Allowing the Russians claiming the east of Ukraine is like allowing Hitler into Sudetenland. What happened then? By the way, all those Russians living in East Ukraine were forced there by Stalin. Going to take a break, and then we'll be back into the last 12 minutes or so of Viewpoint.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with
Giles Brown.
See, the first rule of comedy is timing. 9527844. In fact, I'll let the voiceover artist do this because that's what she gets paid for.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Into the last 11 minutes and 30 of Viewpoint. No more advert breaks. And as is traditional, we probably get some phone calls in. You got some breaking news?
Here's breaking news. If you haven't been watching the news on the television,
right?
There's going to be a shortage of naan bread. Really? Because all the Indian farmers are on strike.
They won't be able to pick the naan.
Yeah. So when you go out for your New Year's or your Christmas, New Year's Indian with your dad,
right? No, it's Christmas Day Indian with my dad.
Christmas Day Indian.
Some traditions have to be done, you know.
There'll be no naan bread.
Well, thanks for getting the first Christmas mention in for Viewpoint on Shrove Tuesday, Alf.
Absolutely. I'm going home for my Christmas pancakes.
Only 11 and a half months, 10 and a half months to go. So, mate, get ready. Get your naan in now.
Bread, absolutely.
There'll be if you see a figure in the Ben on Madner area, stop rush buying naan. It's Alf. Forget toilet paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Who needs toilet paper when you got naan bread?
Right, now, moving swiftly onwards, let's talk about Barbate just quickly, what happened over the weekend. Andreas, fill us in quickly.
I'll do a very quick recap of what happened. Barbate is a port on the Atlantic side, not far from here, the other side of Gibraltar, famous for the fishing of the tuna, the red tuna, the Almadraba tuna, but also infamous for the drug trafficking of hashish from From Morocco. This has been going on for many years. I mean, I even seen videos of people sunbathing on the beach, and a boat arrives and unload all the drugs into a fast car, and they disappear into the oblivion. What happened on Friday is that the narcos boats, because of this storm there was and all the rain and the winds and everything, they had to go into the port of Barbate, and that was reported to the police. The police turned up with a little dinghy, a 5-meter boat.
This is Guardia Civil.
That was the Guardia Civil, not the police, but anyway, doing the police duties, the Guardia Civil, and the drug dealers, what they did, they rammed the boat with a result of 2 Guardia Civil dead and 1 injured quite
I mean the drug smuggler's boat is considerably larger. It's
a 14 meters with a 900 horsepower engine. Yep. I don't know what that means, but apparently it's very powerful.
900 horses.
Yeah, well, so the incredible thing these days, you get films for everything. Everything seems to manage to have a phone there and film it. The incredible thing of the images is that the people that were standing at the side of the port were cheering the drug dealers to ram the police. That's created a big debate. Because it was in the images you see clearly how underfunded and how under-resourced are the police fighting with these big, well-organized crime cartels operating just down the road from here.
The thing with Barbate is because it's like other regions, like the upper, when you go up to Galicia, for example, with all the inlets and stuff like that, which is the natural home for smuggling. Like something like Cornwall is on the anybody who's there from the southwest will know the tradition of wreckers over in the UK and parts of Ireland. But this Barbate, as you said before, they know how to navigate the seas. It is dirt poor there. And so you see these communities that have been involved in contraband to begin with. And if you've ever been
started with cigarette contraband.
Exactly. Yeah. And of course, this is smuggling. And but the thing is, we have seen some pretty spectacular Guardia Civil roadblocks. If you drive out Manilva, for example, you'll see, the big guys, the GEAS, the black hats, which were I think they were the anti-terrorist.
Well, the funny thing that I've learned yesterday, because there was a union member of the Guardia Civil on the radio, and I was listening carefully, because one of the things he said is that until 2022 they had an elite force of 150 civil guards fighting the drug cartels in the area, and apparently, so he said, they were very successful. In 2022, after negotiations of immigration with the Moroccan government, right, this elite body of the Guardia Civil disappeared operationally, given the cartels almost free right to just come in and out of the coast bringing drugs.
This is coming. Barbate is the Spanish capital of burner phones. Those phones that you use once and then you can get rid of.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a big. The drug cartels have created a big economy there, and as you said before, it's not the richest area in the country. And young people. The problem is, before, young people may peddle a little bit with drugs, but now it's become an aspiration. They want to be drug lords and live the high life and everything else. And seeing the success that they're having, there's a young generation of people who are getting more and more into that kind of activity.
This one coming in, the amount of drugs that they keep busting every month begs the question, how many people are there taking all these drugs?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually.
Well, the whole of Europe for a kick-off.
Yeah. That was going to be my point. I mean, most of these drugs don't stay in Spain, they go to Northern Europe. So here the European Union should be helping with resourcing, because they're protecting themselves if they come and help us here on the coast. Same with immigration.
The aspirational stuff, you're quite right, Andreas, is, people people have aspirations to move on in their life, but also it was the crackdown that the Spanish police had in La Linea over the tobacco smuggling, and because they went in there and the police were being attacked by the tobacco smugglers, that moved up the coast, and a lot of that's moved to that place. That then generates enough money that the druggy people don't need to worry about the local population. They'll keep them sweet with alcohol and tobacco, which is why it was always low key for the local population. Then what happens is that the druggies always get bigger. They need more people to help them. Plus the aspirations of the people that live there go, well, we'd like to have a new car, or we'd like to have a decent house to live in, or a fridge, or whatever it is they aspire to. And effectively what happens then is they've built from there a network. Now what will happen is, in my view, it's the reaction of the police, because if the police go over the top with that place, it will just be moved on to another.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to happen.
I mean, what is being cleared in the public opinion now in Spain, and it's clear because you see it on these images, on this video that has been circulating, is that it is indecent to have policemen, Guardia Civil or National Police or whatever, so underfunded and so open to be rammed by these people, is because these policemen, they have wives, they have children, they have, they are, most of them, I know that you get the odd corrupt one, yes, but mostly they are decent, hard-working people, they are doing their job, and they are completely left to their own devices there, with no support from resources and so on. The point that was raised yesterday, they have 6 boats in the area. The 6 of them were they weren't operational because they were under repair, so they had nothing to be able to fight against these guys. These guys know. I mean, these cartels know when they come in, and they're able to move. As if there was a motorway between northern Morocco and southern Spain to flog all these drugs.
Also, they're a tool. I mean, they have been known as well to set fires, so that's in the campus, so that when all the security services are out dealing with the fires and looking into the camper, of course, they can bring ashore the stuff to the beaches.
These people, these drug people and all that, they're not idiots. They're intelligent people. They set up these networks. They have lots of fickos, carrying bags of stuff around, but in the main, the people that run the organisations are really intelligent people.
To the lines we go just quickly. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hi, it's Paddy Harrison calling from Mallorca in Spain. Hi there. Just to point out that in Porto Pi in Palma, there's at least 4 Guardia Civil boats constantly sitting there, okay? And one of them is at least 20 metres long.
Right. And that's...
And they're there all the time. I can send you a photograph now. I'll drive down there shortly. But they're always there. So from my perspective, is they are not underfunded at all. They've got plenty. They just don't put them in the right place.
And do you see much... I mean, not that you probably know, but, I mean, is there a smuggling problem as far as you're aware?
Not as such. I have met Gibraltarians who are tried to buy boats off me specifically for that purpose.
Yeah.
And they're always wanting 50 knots, 50 feet to be able to outrun the cops.
50 knots.
But here in Mallorca, immigrants in Cabrera, they've now got a dedicated barracks of Guardia Civil in Cabrera to intercept the immigrant boats. Yeah. But we don't really have a significant drug problem. They come here to either buy boats or have them serviced. Historically, they used to. But as in drug smuggling, no, it's not really. The aeroplanes are used more than anything else. But no, there's boats there. As far as I can see personally, there are boats there. They're not underfunded. They've got plenty of boats, and I've seen them on Fiestas. One enormous Guardia Civil. It must have been 35 metres long. It was enormous, and it was just watching the Fiestas.
Well, that's probably a good point to watch it.
Good platform.
Yeah. Well, the problem is deploying resources from one area to cover another creates a conflict, because then in Mallorca they will say, oh, now they've taken our boats, how are we going to do our job?
They don't have to take all of them. They don't have to take all of them, but they could. One common thing we have to say about Spain, which we probably all agree, they are fantastic hosts, But the organisational skills, leaves something to be desired.
And with that one, Paddy, as the saying goes, thanks for that much indeed. Thanks for the call in there. Right, almost out of time. It has been my pleasure and a privilege to bring you this very live and very lively Viewpoint. My thanks to my guest, Andres Gallardo.
Thank you, Giles. Thank you, everyone.
Jamie Hamilton-Milan.
Thank you very much.
Fully zipped. And Alf Brewer.
And another love fest between me and Andreas.
Yeah, exactly. And just a quick word from Paul in Crosby, who says, damn, did I miss the Taylor Swift section? So there you go. This show will be repeated at 7 o'clock tonight. Stephen Ritson is not available today, so we go live talk to our colleagues at the BBC. Thanks very much for your calls in. I'll see you tomorrow with Let's Talk.
Expressed on Viewpoint by invited studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.